Hello and welcome to Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, April 6, 2021. As always, we're coming live from the Sirius Star System studios right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I hope all is well with everybody. So it has been a crazy month. It's been super busy, and I've been super excited because I love this time of year. A lot of people don't, for me, spring and summertime just seem to be, there's just a certain energy about it, and I absolutely love it. And a lot of people don't know that the Celtic alder moon ends on the 14th, and we're approaching that. And what that means is it's coinciding with the spring equinox, which just starts on March 20th. And what this time period really represents is fertility and balance. And a lot of times we think of balance as something where we have to be positive all the time or we have to be happy all the time. But really what it means is that we have to bring in fertility of new growth and the balance of life and death and give and take. And so a lot of times we have to focus on that. And this is a perfect time for a lot of you to understand that we are bringing in new things in our life. And I know in springtime, summertime, everybody gets all excited, especially you northerners, all the snow is gone. And, but you really have to focus on this time period, especially during this week, is really what you want to focus on is what you really want to bring into your life as far as that, because spring has returned, you know, there's a new life, there's a new balance in there, and life is refreshed. So it's always an exciting time, spring. I don't know why I do. I love it. I love to go camping during this time and do certain things, and yeah, it just seems to be that way. So, all right, guys, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Persicope, and Daily Motion as always, and the replays will be in the links below. So I am super excited because I have such an amazing guest tonight. I met this lady a couple months ago, and it just from talking and everything, which just seemed to be just such a great connection, wonderful personality. And Bracha Goetz is a Harvard-educated wellness author of 38 books that help children's souls shine. And Searching for God in the Garbage is her latest, a candid memoir for adults about overcoming food addictions joyfully. All of her books can be found on Amazon as she is the author. So please help me welcome to the show, Bracha Goetz.
Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Wonderful.
Yeah, how is the weather up by you?
Oh, the snow is not melting. Oh, yeah, the snow is not melting yet.
The snow's not melting yet. That's all right, but it's gonna be soon. You know, that's what springtime does, right?
Yes.
So before we get started, Bracha, can you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are?
Who I am. I'm actually the mother of 6 grown children. Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm a person that loves to learn more and more about life and grow all the time. I love learning new things. And I'm a person also that's working on becoming more grateful. That's one of my big goals in life, to become more and more grateful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Gratitude is something that we all must understand in order for us to grow. And I think one of the things that people have to understand when they're looking as gratitude is it's not so much being grateful for material things, it's being grateful for who you are, the lessons that you learn, and the things that maybe some of us dislike about who we are and our experiences.
Yes, that is true.
Absolutely. You know, you have written 38 books, and that's amazing. First of all, when I went on Amazon and and we first connected, I was like, wow, this lady likes to write, and I think that's amazing because, especially, you know, being a children's author, is that mainly what you do, is the children's?
That's right.
That's you know that's where we want to inspire our children to start to grow into a healthy person.
Exactly, because I still have that curiosity that a child has. I don't think I lost that sense of wonder, and that's why I can get into the head of what it means to be a child. I think I'm sort of still there. Yeah, so I write the books from that perspective. I think I'm like from a perspective of really like an 8-year-old boy, which is interesting. Somehow I'm that's what I embody. I don't know why, but that's where I'm writing the books.
No, hey, that's great. That really is because hey, who says because we're women and we have to just write towards women, or if we're a man, we just have to, So absolutely, I think that's great, and I think what's nice about what you do is that childlike innocence, because we lose that, don't we? We lose that as adults. We're told we have to be certain things, we have to act certain ways, and we kind of lose that fun and that innocence in who we are.
Yes, I somehow didn't lose it. I'm really bad at doing most adult-like things, honestly. Like driving. I am not good at driving.
No,
It's
no.
it's very adult and it's not my kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Not everyone. I have friends that are terrible at directions, and they're always like, Miss Rada, figure this out, because I'm like, even if I'm in the back not paying attention, I'm like, all right, where's east west? Give me an address and I'll find it. So,
Yes. Yeah. Not
uh,
me.
not you. Why do you think? Well, speaking of being childlike, why do you think we lose our childlike innocence?
I don't know. I know I haven't lost it. That's the thing. It's hard to ask me that question. Okay, but like I feel like at certain times in my life, people were trying to get me to lose it,
Yes.
and I had to kind of reach back for it. I think of one experience when I went through a terrible trauma as an adult, and I remember feeling like I'm losing all my innocence. I'm losing my sense of trust in the world. And I would just focus on a tree. That is what I did to try to regain my sense of wonder and love of the world. I would just stare at a tree and I go, there are still trees in this world.
Yes.
Just focus on the tree. That's what I was doing. I actually, that's what helped to ground me back into myself and come to appreciate the world again when I felt like the world had been taken out from under me. I just would focus on the tree. There is still beauty in the world. There's still growth. Look at this. I, that's all I could say. There's a lot of difficulties and challenges in the world that can take us away from our pure souls, and we have to really struggle to get back to it because that's essentially who we are, our souls. That's who all of us are. We're real. In essence, we're spiritual beings, but we can easily forget that.
And then especially in our society, it's trained that way because we're
Yes.
taught separation. We're taught that everyone is separate, everything is separate, our ideas are separate, and we have to chase these ideas of I mean, we're built to survive, and it's not built to live anymore. We're built to survive, because what do you have to do? You have to wake up every morning at 8 a.m. or whatever, go to work, work and do all these things. And I love the fact that you take a tree and focus on that, because what does a tree teach us? It teaches us sturdiness, because a tree doesn't waver no matter what elements come in, unless it's a giant hurricane down here. but it doesn't waver to the winds, to the elements. It's strong. The roots are strong, and it grows and it adapts to whatever. If the sun starts moving, if something's built there, it starts to change. And I think that's amazing that that's what you focus on to keep your focus.
Yes, I think my whole life it's been trees because when I was young, the book, my memoir, Searching for God in the Garbage, it starts off with I'm turning 12 and I'm hanging out the window. And like I'm hanging out the window because I want to feel like life is worth living. I remember doing this. I'm hanging out there. We lived on a third floor apartment. I'm hanging and I'm saying, do I want to come back in? Yes, I want to keep living. I want to live. And right outside my window, I lived in Queens, New York. There was hardly any nature. I was craving nature. All I had was this one tree outside my window. Again, I was clinging to it. I was talking to this tree. I was like loving this tree. And it kept me going. That was adolescence for me. I was growing. The tree was changing. I was changing. and I was really relating to it. So, yeah, I think it's been a story of my life. Well, I'll call it the tree of life.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah. So, well, the tree of life is very important because
Yeah.
if we understand how life blossoms and how life recycles through each other, the tree of life is actually depicted of how we do it. But I think that's amazing because a lot of people have that. I grew up in the city as well, and there wasn't many trees. And one of the things that I love about Florida is
Oh,
when there's a lot of houses, there's still a lot of trees, a lot of nature around us, but we disconnect from ourselves because we are part of the planet. We are the planet. The planet and the universe and everything is all one. And so it's not like we're a human and there's the animals, there's the trees, there's the earth, there's that. We're all one. And when we lose that connection, I can see why you're like, hey, let's jump out the window because do I want to live like this?
yeah, I wanted to feel that life was worth living. That's where I would do that. I'd get that sense of, whoops, no, I want to be inside. I want to live. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, absolutely. And there's so many people that don't understand that because when we disconnect from ourselves, when we live in separation, when we live on one side or the other, because a lot of us, I don't believe in positive or negative as far as good or bad. It's because when you look at it, it's like an attraction. It's like two magnets that are pulling with each other and spinning, and they're trying to get to each other, but they can't because they need duality in order for us to see. But a lot of people are trying to achieve something that isn't possible, and that in itself is destruction for them because they're like, why can't I ever achieve this? And then they become imbalanced, and then they start to unravel and start to what they call negativity.
Huh. Fascinating. Yeah. So again, it goes back to gratitude, being grateful for what we have, savoring the
Yes.
blessings that fill our lives in this moment, not always reaching for something else, and feeling the joy that's possible and in every moment. Yeah.
And that's hard to do. And I think the important message here is that we're going to have, like, the heart has rhythms, and in order for us to live in the heart, we have to have that up and down. And that's
Yes.
why I think the idea of living positivity is so destructive because you're
Ah,
thinking you have to be happy all the time, you have to be
ah,
so grateful, nothing's supposed to bother. And that's just not life. We all have rhythms, we all have our ups and downs, and in order for us to propel up to understand happiness, we have to go sad because sadness, grief, and those type of ideas, depression, help us refocus on what's important. That's what it's meant for. But
hmm,
unfortunately, a lot of us get caught up in our sadness and grief and become victims to our emotions.
interesting. Okay, I hear that. Like I could see sadness or pain. Well, one thing that I learned is like pain is kind of a part of pleasure. Like thinking of childbirth, giving birth to a new process, thinking of like the seed that decomposes in order to grow. So thinking of even climbing a mountain, um, the pain involved in that, and that it's all a part of pleasure too.
Yes. It is. It's a
Yeah,
hard concept for a lot
yeah.
of people to understand because we're taught that you're supposed to be happy. If you want to be appreciative, you got to be happy. But
Ah.
doesn't that dismiss, the challenges we go through?
Yeah, we're taught to avoid discomfort. That's
Yeah.
what I think. We're taught
Yeah.
to avoid discomfort. Take these pills, avoid discomfort. The more we recognize, I think, that discomfort is part of breaking through to new places, that it can be a part of us reaching even higher levels of pleasure. I think that's something that I've been learning about.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it's true. If we're happy all the time, but we need those rest times. If you're on the go, think of it this way. I always think of it because I try to go with, if people don't understand the concept, I say, okay, well, say like you work all the time. If you're always on the go, you're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and not taking a break, what happens to your body? And then they say, well, I break down, I get tired, I get overexhausted, I get cranky. Well, that's the same thing. If you're not understanding, as you call it, if you're avoiding discomfort or avoiding the sadness or the times of rest or whatever, then
Right.
yes, then we're not going those flows, because does not the universe and whatever we're going through, the body, everything has cycles.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. I love it. I love how you describe that. I I don't know if you want me to share, but I think what was part of my transformation was learning about these 5 levels of pleasure,
Yes.
called the pleasure ladder. I should
Yes.
I s- so
Yeah, we're gonna
oh
get all
okay.
into that right now. So go
Okay,
ahead. Go
great.
ahead.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. So like the first level, and what I realized, this was something, a breakthrough that I made just this year, is that the 5 levels of pleasure, this is according to ancient mystical wisdom of the Kabbalah.
Uh-huh.
So that the 5 levels of pleasure correspond, it seems to me, to the 5 levels of the human soul. They correspond like amazingly, because the lowest level of pleasure are all the physical pleasures, all the sensual pleasures. And the lowest level of the soul is the part that attaches to our physical body. So, in other words, when we these physical pleasures were designed to uplift our soul at the same time when we experience them. And that is what changed my life. I mean, recognizing that, like, an orange, like, this orange is so genius, like we just don't even recognize it, like, most of the time. Like, first of all, it's got this like peel that keeps all the juiciness in for so long. It's amazing. The juiciness of life, it just keeps it right in there. And also, it doesn't become bright and beautiful until it's fully ripe. Like, when it becomes most attractive, that's when we can just take it off the tree and eat it for breakfast, which is what I do when I go to my son's house. That's how I eat breakfast. I go outside and I pick it off the tree,
Oh,
and I sit outside. This is like the
yes.
way I think we're supposed to eat breakfast, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree 100% with that.
Yeah, well, you in Florida would get that, you know. I'm missing that here, but that's it exactly. So so and then it has an aroma, it has an amazing taste, and it looks beautiful when it's ripe and ready to eat. So it's designed to uplift our senses and uplift our soul when we experience the gratitude and we connect to source when we eat it mindfully. When we mindfully, then it becomes not only a physical pleasure but a spiritual pleasure, and that's what it was designed to do. So I feel that, like, when the fruit becomes bright and beautiful, that's when we pick it, that's when we can have this physical and spiritual experience. And when we eat the stuff that is more disconnected from source,
Yes.
we don't have that same spiritual experience as it was designed
Yes.
to uplift us. So I know I heard one of your amazing podcasts, similar, about that, about, eating just more whole foods, and how uplifting that is for us, because it's nutritious for our bodies. It was designed to be nutritious, when this processed stuff is actually designed to just be addictive and make us buy more of it, and isn't helpful for our bodies at all, or very minimally, like, just in a little way that they haven't yet, taken away its value. Um so all these physical pleasures, natural physical pleasures, were designed to uplift our soul. Music and nature, being in nature, all of these things, intimacy, everything like that. These are the physical pleasures designed to uplift our soul. That's all on the bottom level. So what's higher than that? The second level of pleasure, which corresponds to the second level of the soul, is ruach. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the Hebrew word. Is love. I mean, ruach is spirit, but love. I should continue that, I think, in the next segment
Yes,
about
yes,
love.
yes. We're gonna take a break in a minute and stuff like that, but I absolutely love and agree with what you're saying. But all right, guys, we're gonna take a commercial break and we'll be right back after these messages.
The human experience is changing. and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back, and if you're just joining us, we have the fabulous Bracha Goetz, and we are, Bracha, I am loving our conversation so much because what you're talking about, you started talking about the first and lowest pleasure, which is the physical pleasure, and now you're starting to talk about the second pleasure, which is love. And so far, yes, we are so instinctual to go on pleasures, and sometimes we give into those pleasures, and we give into, I don't want to say the wrong type of pleasure because to me there is no right or wrong, but we give into those needs because we're trying to fix something. So what is the second pleasure of love?
Okay, the second pleasure, love. Now, I'm telling you, this is a unique definition of love because most people think that we have to sit around and wait for love to come into our life, that we're dependent on getting love from others. This definition is really different. And all these five levels are totally empowering. We can bring them into our lives at any moment, not dependent on other people. So, love, this is according to Rabbi Noah Weinberg, who was the rabbi that really helped to transform my life. But his teachings are based on really ancient mystical teachings. So this is love is, according to this definition, love is when you focus on the virtues of another. Now that anybody could do at any moment. You can always find one other to focus on and appreciate their virtues. It could be a pet, it could be an animal, it could be a person. It's an individual and you're appreciating qualities about them. So with that definition of love, a person in prison could do it as well. And I consider addictions to be prisons too. So we when we focus on another, it gives us an emotional pleasure. So on the lowest level, we're talking about physical pleasures. The second level, we're talking about an emotional pleasure that we get from focusing on the virtues of another. So moving up, at the third level is kind of an intellectual pleasure. And each level is a more lasting pleasure, and it brings us more connection into the world. Each one brings us more and more connection. So the third level, which is kind of an intellectual pleasure, is meaning. When we when we get meaning from the world, when we do something meaningful and something good and meaningful that adds to the world. um, one example of that, and I use this to show how you can overcome addictions. Like I was talking about, I was talking about this on another podcast, and the host said to me, just the other day, I was plowing through a box of pizza. And after I finished two slices, I was just going to keep going, finish the whole box. When there comes a knock on the door, and he goes to the door, and the neighbor needs his help with something. And after he comes back helping his neighbor, he looks at the pizza. I don't want this. I don't need it. He felt so good. He
Yeah.
had just helped his neighbor. He felt he did something meaningful and no longer felt that need. Because why? Why do we overeat? It's a feeling of, like you were describing, alienation,
Yeah.
separation, and whatever, loneliness, stress, boredom. These are all feelings of not feeling connected. So going up the pleasure ladder, the fourth level is creativity. This is when we bring a part of ourselves into the world. We are really, what's unique about us, we're adding in the world, and we're also tapping into the creative flow of the universe. It is, we get into a zone when we're being creative, like we don't feel like eating or sleeping sometimes. We just can keep going when we're in that zone of
Yes.
creativity.
I agree because there's so many of us that we get in a habit, and I always say like we need more fresh markets than McDonald's and Burger Kings. And I mean, hey, that's great to have it once in a while, but when we turn around, on every corner it's junk food.
Right.
It's processed food. It's dead food. There's no nutritional value. And as you were saying with the apples and the oranges, those fruits and vegetables and plant-based things have higher vibration, and this is scientifically proven that fruits and vegetables have a higher vibration than processed foods and everything. And so what we're doing is we're lowering ourselves, and like the guy like you said, the guy was enjoying his pizza, he was about to plow through it, and then all of a sudden he did something to change his vibration, and we came
Ah,
back, that pizza was no longer appetizing because the vibrational level wasn't there anymore.
exactly. Exactly. He had filled himself with a higher pleasure. He
Yes.
didn't need that pleasure anymore. Exactly. He was filled with that energy, with the vibration. It's a higher energy level he was at. Exactly. So while we're talking about that, I want to show you something else just about the wisdom of these fruits and vegetables. One of my children's books is about that because I love to show children this amazing wisdom. I mean, look at this. This potato and this nut, they are not exciting colors. They're
No.
very dull colors. And this was done with wisdom too, because we need a nutcracker to open this nut. We should not, we should not want to bite into it right away.
You don't
Yeah,
you don't want to break your teeth off?
exactly, exactly. And this potato, it's not delicious when we eat it raw. No, we have to first cook it. So certain things, the wisdom, the message is written right on it. And so much of our fruits and vegetables are that way. It's amazing when you learn about it. So these have a very dull color. It's not telling you to experience the joy right away of an orange or an apple. No, wait. First cook it, then enjoy it. In other words, the directions are right on the package. It's amazing,
Yes, yeah.
incredible, unbelievable.
And you bring up something that reminds me of something, because we're in a world where carbs are bad and fats are bad and different. Well, walnuts have fats, but it's a certain type of fat that your brain needs, your heart needs,
Yep.
and potatoes have certain starches in them. Yes, that's true. But potatoes are very good for the nervous system, and especially for so like when we don't have an understanding, all we hear is these doctors that say, oh, and so we start cutting out things like rice and potatoes and nuts, and it's like, and then people are like, yeah, I feel great at first, but then all of a sudden there's a decline in their mentality and their focus and their health and their energy, because you're taking out what is prescribed to you by nature.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's the way I used to live. The crazy yo yo dieting, crazy different diets, fad diets. It's all about this understanding about how we would design and just living in a more natural way, in tune with nature. It's a totally different kind of experience, and it's just a more pleasurable way to live. So, and it's about, I feel, not restricting. It's about adding more joy and pleasure to one's life. What was I up to? The fourth level, and the fifth level is what's left. Transcendence is when we connect to everybody, to everything. We understand that we're all connected, like you were describing. We, it's like the veil of separation is lifted. we have we have clarity. We have clarity about how we breathe out, we give to the vegetation, the vegetation breathes out to us. We're all symbiotically related, all people.
Yes.
We all we're, we're all here to help each other really through. That's what we're here for. So when all that veil of confusion is lifted and we can see, that's transcendence. We see our connection to source and to each other, and it's awesome bliss. But we don't stay at that level. It's not a level that we can sustain in this world. Actually, what we learn is that the two highest levels, we would burn out being creative all the time. We don't stay at those two highest levels. We're mainly at the three lower levels in this lifetime. And what we learn is that in the world to come, I used to think it sounded boring, the world to come. But no, if you think of it as constant creativity and new unfoldings and new understanding, it doesn't seem
Yeah.
boring at all.
Yeah.
So that's the state that I'm understanding where we're heading toward when we fully evolve as spiritual beings. But on in this planet, we're here to really uplift the sparks of the physical world in which we interact, so that we reach a higher level and the whole world reaches a higher level. And um, so that's basically an overview of the pleasure ladder and of the five levels of our soul. So
You
how it
know,
works.
you we were talking about that earlier, is how, like, if the people chasing positivity and people chasing happiness all the time, if you're always that way, you restrict the idea of a rhythm. And so that's the same thing with the pleasure ladder as you're talking about, because yes, if you're always being creative, that means you're always being active. There's no downtime. If you're always being in transcendence, yes, there, and I always tell even my students, I'm always like, yes, it's great to be spiritual, it's great to be knowing of the universe, but at the same time, be human as well. Go out and enjoy life, live life. Don't always sit there. Yeah, because I'm the same way. Like, I'm always looking for answers in the universe. I look at the clouds, the thing. I look inside, and yes, we do reflect, because you are another perception of who I am, and vice versa. And so for us to sit there and say that we're separate, yes, we have separate bodies, but we are one and the same at that sense. And I think that that's the great thing about that pleasure ladder, is that you're saying is that yes, we can't be everyone thinks life is about a goal. Like, we have to get to these goals, we have to go, because we have one life, and if we screw it all up, we're done for. But it's not like that, because life is more about experiencing through the life than actually reaching a goal.
Exactly. We're we're all souls that were brought from the world of souls into this world. We are here to interact, and we're given physical bodies for a reason. We are here to interact as physical bodies. Our 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 essence, our soul is housed in these physical bodies. It's not an accident. So we also have to. That's another reason, actually, for working at eating healthy, because we're here to take good care of our bodies. We really are, and that protects our soul. So hopefully we can be here longer and doing more good things in this world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, go ahead, go ahead. I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, and it's really an important thing. Actually, my next book is Let's Stay Healthy, about really focusing on how children from the beginning of life can start to live healthier lives. It's just so important. That's why I love writing children's books, because right away you can it's kind of like an engraving on the soul. If you develop these skills early on, you have them for life. You have skills to how to enrich your life throughout. Yeah.
And that's such an important message then. That's why I think what you do is so wonderful, because our minds are very conditional, and we did a show on classical conditioning several weeks ago, and our minds are very conditionable. So what's that means is that especially at a young age, when we come into this world, we know nothing. Whatever we're hearing, whatever we're seeing, whatever we're absorbing, we're taking. And once our brain accepts it as truth, even if it's not true, that's the way we start to believe. That's the way we start to act. That's the way we start to react to situations. And I think we don't teach children, because in school, even, what were you taught? You were taught what? Math, English, science, right? You weren't taught how to be happy. You weren't taught how to deal with your emotions, how to deal with fighting, how to deal with how to eat healthy and stuff. You weren't taught these things. At least we weren't. I don't know if they teach them now, but we're not taught the important things in life. We're taught how to make money.
Exactly, exactly. I wanted to write the kind of books I wanted as a child. That's exactly been my goal.
Yes.
What are the spiritual messages, and how can I express them in a way that any child can understand them, in a really simple way, a simple and delightful way, so that they love. Like, for instance, one book that I wrote is about protecting children from sexual abuse. This
Wow,
is a
nice.
really serious time. There's actually two books on that subject in different ways. So hard to believe that that's one of my, or if it might even be the most popular children's book that I wrote. Hard to believe that the children love this book. They
Yeah,
love the
yes,
guidelines. They love having the structure. They love understanding what to do. It's empowering to them. It's which is fascinating to me. I never expected that to be one of my most popular books ever. So children love this, they crave it. And why do I consider that those spiritual books as well? Because they protect the soul.
absolutely.
Protecting our bodies protects our soul. Exactly.
Absolutely. And I think that's amazing that you go out and reach that, because a lot of, I mean, what we're taught, oh no, you're too young, you're not supposed to know it. You'll know it when you're older. And it's like we shelter our minds, and we think that sex is something taboo, like, oh, we can't talk about that. We think that sexual abuse, you can't, like they're supposed to, like, there's an age limit. No, teach the kids now, help them understand, and so when they go through it, they don't feel like, I mean, how many times, whether it's man or woman, because men get abused as well, and that, I mean, how many times, and especially the last few years, all these things, Me Too and everything pop up. I mean, how many, on a psychological aspect, that destroys your life. And I know so many people that have had sexual abuse that have gone through it, and and I could just see them. And I mean, it destroys their schooling, it destroys their work, it destroys relationships. And then when they come out about it, they get shunned about it because our society isn't prepared to deal with it.
Exactly. Yeah, these books are for age 3 and up. That's
Good.
when a child can even
Yeah.
begin to understand. And it explains, the books kind of give an opening for a discussion. Then they can learn even more, and you can teach it on a higher level as the child goes up. I've written articles about that, how to increase the complexity of how you explain it to children as they get older. But from age 3 up, they can already begin to understand how to protect themselves, and well, children need to know this. It's essential.
It,
Yes.
it, it is. It's very essential. And I'm so glad and happy that you're doing it, because I've always said that. And I get looks all the time like, what do you mean you're supposed to take It's a child. They don't understand. I was like, I'm sorry. But when I was that age, I understood that stuff. And I couldn't understand why my parents kept telling me, like no, 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 you're too young for that, you'll learn later in life. It was like, no, teach me now. But you
Wow.
know what, I am enjoying this so much, but unfortunately we got to take a break right now. But all right, guys, we're going to be right back after these messages.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561 318 0006. That's 561 318 0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back, and if you're just joining us, we have the amazing Bracha Goetz. And Bracha, I love the fact that you write children's books and educate them on the important subjects. And also, I love the fact about this pleasure ladder, as you were mentioning. The physical. One of the things that I think is important in our society is we overeat, and we overeat because we're emotional. We know that we're trying to make it. But how do people overcome overeating, like, in a joyful manner?
Wonderful. I love this question. Okay. So, the why do we overeat? So, what what I'm understanding is, that we want more pleasure in our life. When we experience the pleasure of eating, we want more of it. That's natural. We just want more pleasure. And if you don't have a sense that there's an abundance of other pleasures in your life available that moment, you're just going to keep eating
Yes.
because you're extending that pleasure. It's that simple. So, how do we change that? We recognize that's why this pleasure letter is super important. We recognize that there is truly an abundance of pleasure available to every single person, every moment. That's what's so incredible. As I explained, even in prison, a person can, well, let's see, what can you do? If you're suddenly, oh, first of all, it's really hard to overeat a bag of oranges. We don't tend to overeat these natural healthy things. It's the
Yes.
junk food that we're really overeating.
Yeah.
So that's and like you were saying, occasional junk food once in a while, it's fun, whatever, but it's when we just keep it going, it becomes a pattern of bringing comfort into our lives. Basically, we don't want to handle the discomfort, so we bring in the comfort and we just kind of stuff it in to stuff down the discomfort. So let's say a person is overeating. They can this is my favorite question. Is it my body that's hungry or my soul?
Oh,
And
good
when you
question.
recognize, yes, thank you, when you recognize that it's your soul that's hungry, really, you're not, your body, you just had a good meal, but you're saying, I'm still hungry, I'm just going to keep going. After those two slices, I'm just going to eat the rest of the box of pizza. It's not that you're physically hungry. Also, you know how it takes 20 minutes
Yes.
to really feel full afterwards anyway. So if you're just like quickly putting it down, you're not going to, but the hunger that you feel, it's an emptiness inside. It's not a physical hunger that makes you want to keep going. It's that desire for more pleasure in life. So what you can do when you recognize that is it my body that's hungry or my soul? You could put those a sticky note on your fridge or on your cupboard, and you can then start thinking, oh, what else could I do right now? You could even plan it in advance to get over the bad habit of overeating junk. You can plan in advance what pleasurable thing can I do after I eat this meal, so I could just move the transition more smoothly to doing something else that's pleasurable. So you can I could one thing you could do, let's say you're overeating, you could just push a button, make it really easy. Push a button, turn on music, start dancing and moving. Well, you will not feel like overeating when you're dancing and moving. It changes. You get a whole new level of, not that's actually it's on the same level, but it's a new kind of pleasure, and it changes. You're not, the endorphins start flowing. You don't feel like stuffing your face in the same way. So let's say, or you could open the window or step outside, feel nature, feel the breeze, feel the sunshine. Suddenly, the bag of potato chips is not calling your name as loudly as it was before. Something changes that moment that you've experienced that other kind of, even on the same level, sensual, natural pleasure in your life. So, or let's say, let's go up to a higher level. You could think about somebody that you appreciate. You could call, you could be in between the second and third levels. You could call them, call someone that's lonely, especially an elderly person. Call them, leave them a message. If you don't get them in, leave them a sweet message about how you appreciate them. You'll feel so good afterwards. You won't feel like overeating. It's amazing how this works. So basically, there is it takes 400 repetitions to overcome a bad habit in general. If you do it joyfully, 10 repetitions and you've got it down. So just try this. If you just try it 10 times, you'll actually have this down, of adding more joy to your life instead of all these restrictions. And you won't feel, how long can a person keep up a restrictive diet? For a while, but then you yo-yo back. I think like 90% of people gain back the weight they've lost from a
Yes.
diet. So
Yes.
so it's not good on the body to keep losing and gaining this way. You just um change your whole way of looking at life, and it's not like you're going to have to struggle with the diets anymore. There'll always be struggles in life.
Yes.
There'll always be challenges,
Yes.
and there'll always be something making you want to overeat because you're feel discomfort about something. But okay, you recognize, wait a minute, is it my body that's hungry or my soul? What could I do now to uplift my spirit, bring more pleasure into my life? Maybe it's dealing with that challenge in a different way, in a creative way.
Yeah.
There's always ways that you could do this. So it's a very expansive way. I hope this opens people's consciousness to understand that there's an infinite number of ways that you can add more pleasure to your life. And we get stuck in that narrow place of an addiction, a food addiction or whatever type of addiction, as the only way to bring comfort into our lives, because we got stuck there. Repetitive behavior, we can change that. 10 joyful tries, we could. You see how it changes. Yeah.
I think that's perfectly said because absolutely, is your body hungry or is the soul hungry? And that's the same thing with energy. I always ask people, I was like, is your body tired or is your soul tired? Are you
Wow.
always pushing yourself? Are you not taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally? Because a lot of people, and they do, and then they think, oh, I got to eat more food in order for me to, for me to satisfy. Because even on a medical level, when the body's hungry, what is it asking for? It's asking for nutrients. So if you
Right.
feed it dead food, garbage
Yeah.
food, it's not
Yeah.
going to use it. It's going to store most of it as adipose, and it's still going to crave because, hey, I didn't get the vitamin C, I didn't get the E, I didn't get the potassium, I didn't get whatever nutrients it's looking for. And so then all of a sudden you're pumping more because you think, oh, I just ate a bunch, but then I got to eat more, and so you're constantly overeating, and then you're constantly chasing that because our society is built all to blow up our dopamine and our serotonin levels. Everything's got to be sharper and brighter and bigger booms, and you think about movies today, and everything's got to be so stimulus that we are trying to find that same stimulus in another type in other areas of our life. And yes, you're 100% right. We want more pleasure in our life. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for love within ourselves. We're looking for acceptance within ourselves. We're looking for responsibility within ourselves, and we're looking to get to know ourselves. Most of us don't understand, even though people that say they do, most of us don't. And you can always tell by the habits that you're going.
Yeah, and it's a really joyful process to learn more and more about
Yes.
ourselves. It's like that's what we're here for.
Yes.
There's a note on my fridge that said, "Here is a test to find out if your mission in life is complete. If you're alive, it isn't.
Yes.
There's always more to learn about, but not in the sense of I'm missing it, because once our soul has been nourished to this level, and we are able to empower ourselves to fill our lives with pleasure, um, then we um, we no longer have those cravings in that sense, because we are kind of filled like this, and we just need a little bit more throughout the day. We keep bringing pleasure into our life, but it's not that sense of craving that I once had, that
Yeah.
desperate craving, that caused the binge eating. And then it's not like that now, because I'm full
Yes.
with my soul is nourished. That's what's different now. And so I always need a little bit more nourishment, but it's not that my soul is no longer starving. That's
Yeah.
basically what it is.
and,
Yeah.
and and people sit there and like I'm a very person. I like my alone time. I like my solitude. I can sit here all day in my backyard by my pond and just sit out and look and just be amazed and just
Oh,
and everyone's like and I'll be like, do you see that? Do you, and they're like, what are
oh,
you looking at? I'm like, that. Do you see that? And they don't get that
oh.
and they don't feel and they're like, how do you get so? I'm like, because because that's what I'm connecting to, and we're looking for external sources of pleasure all the time, and we're desperate for them, like you said. We are so desperate to get something, so we chase love, we chase jobs, we chase friends, we chase all these destructive and toxic patterns in our lives, and we don't allow ourselves to grow in that idea. And so I think that what you said is best is that when we're craving something, we have to start looking at ourselves and start looking at around us, because we can feed ourselves by I can sit out in the back and feed my soul with just sitting there and doing absolutely nothing.
Exactly. As we enjoy the simple pleasures more and more, like you were saying, that we get addicted to stimuli, so much stimulus coming at us when we um ha- what's the word, but we kind of retract in a certain way in order to enjoy the simple pleasures more. Everything becomes more appreciated. Don't take things for granted. I feel that was the most positive thing about the pandemic. We 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 began to take less we began to not take things for granted as we did before, as people returned home and got more involved in simple pleasures, and we developed our appreciation. I feel that this world, just about worldwide pandemic, was part of our evolution
It is.
of of uplifting our souls to become people that had become too much out there. Return home,
Yeah.
and appreciate the simple pleasures again.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it absolutely was, because we're going through an evolutionary jump right now, and it's going to last. The main part of it's going to go from 2020 to 2025. It's going to extend all the way into 2060, but the main part, and it's going to be rough for a lot of people if they fight it, but if they learn to accept it, and because trauma and chaos only happens when our soul gets far away from our
Hmm.
path. And so when we start to deviate from our path and we start to go into, as you say, all these pleasures that are self-indulgence and everything, we start to deviate from that. And eventually life says, you know what, you got to get back here. You got to
Mm.
return to who you are. And
Hmm.
these pandemics, things that happen, yes, because how many people do you hear that say, oh my God, I wish they actually were so, they thought the pandemic was so horrible because they had to sit with themselves because they couldn't go out and do anything. And it's like, no, like, get to know you, get to reconnect to you.
And nourish that soul,
Yeah.
exactly. And besides nourishing our souls, sometimes because of trauma, abuse, neglect, there's a lot of garbage piled on top of our souls. We we need sometimes therapeutic intervention in addition to nourishing our souls to get rid of all that garbage, because even when we nourish our souls, if there's so much garbage piled on top, our souls still can't shine.
Yes.
So we got to remove that garbage. That's why Searching for God in the Garbage is the name of my book,
Right.
because it's both. We got to nourish and remove the clouds, the blockages too, in order to shine. I,
Yes.
I, I think I want. I'm reminded also of one of my children's books. It's called. Well, I'm going to hold this one up. Wait. I want to be famous because this boy, all he wants to be is out there and be famous. That's it. So he gets his wish the way any boy could nowadays. Someone takes a YouTube video of him doing something ridiculous, you
Yeah.
know? He becomes famous overnight, and then he quickly loses his fame, as what usually happens too. Most people don't stay famous for long. So until he gets kind of sad, until he realizes there's a spotlight inside of us.
Yes.
If we get that shining, then every day will be so valuable. It's not like we'll be searching for the spotlight out there once we get it shining from within.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I think that's such an important message, because, by the way, I love the character of the book. I absolutely do. But that's such an important message, because we're all chasing that. We're all chasing to be cool, to be famous, to be popular, to be all these things, except for yourself. And it doesn't. I mean, people don't understand what comes along with fame. Like, I don't care for fame, because I like my solitude. I wouldn't want someone coming up to me in supermarkets and talking to me. I mean, I love people, don't get me wrong, but I like my privacy, and you lose a lot with that. So I think that's amazing. But unfortunately, I just looked at the time and we're out of time, and I'm like, oh, it's going by so fast. So Bracha, can you give out any information that you'd like for people to contact you?
Oh, the best way to find me, all my books are in one place on my Amazon author page. So if you look for my name, Amazon, all of them are there. My books are in libraries and bookstores, but my contact information is also on my Amazon author page. So if you just go there, you can meet all the books at once, get to know them, and they'll be happy. You too. Yep.
Perfect. Bracha, thank you so much for joining us today because honestly, it has been an absolutely pleasure. I
Oh,
could talk with you all day.
thank you so much, Miss Raina. Thank you.
You're welcome, hon. You're welcome. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show, and I know I certainly did. If you want to follow us on our Facebook, it's facebook.com/transcendental transformation. Our YouTube is Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Sign up for my newsletter on soulandspiritguide.com and receive hidden shows, VIP access, and special guest offers. And if you have any questions about tonight's show or any other show, please email me at transcendentaltransformations@gmail.com. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.